maybe I'm slanted because I mostly cover the Big Ten, but with Ohio State hiring Matt Patricia today, it genuinely feels like the Buckeyes have had the most intense preseason out of any college football team for 2 years in a row. So to paint the picture of what I was doing and kind of my initial reaction when the news was announced, because believe me, this was shocking to me. I mean, yesterday when it was revealed that Patricia was interviewed by Day and by Ohio State, I kind of chuckled at it because in my mind I'm thinking, seriously? And not seriously directly in the sense that, wow, the defense will crater, because Ohio State has very talented defensive players. I think that whether it's Edric Houston, whether it's Sonny Styles, obviously Caleb Downs, Caden McDonald, Kenyatta Jackson Jr., I think Jermaine Matthews Jr. is all-American caliber player. We know that Devin Sanchez could be a freak athlete as a true freshman at corner. Their roster's loaded, and they have elite position coaches, and Matt Patricia is a celebrated defensive coordinator from the New England Patriots perspective. And, well, Bill Belichick is the one who knocks at the NFL level, at least formerly, and he's the GOAT of head coaches. He is the Nick Saban of the NFL, and Nick Saban is the Bill Belichick of college football. That's how it goes. But still, Matt Patricia, from where I am located, Michigan, is kind of viewed as a meme, and I would say for pretty good reasons. And Patricia hasn't been a defensive coordinator since 2017. And you see in the reaction to this hire by Ohio State fans that the camps are largely going into three directions. There is, I think, the wisest approach, which is let's wait and see. And then there are two extreme approaches. Some are saying, well, we're right back to where we were before we won it all, and Day is not taking the correct approach. And then there is the other camp who's just saying everything's fine, and we once again have an elite defensive coordinator, or perhaps we somehow upgraded defensive coordinator, which I think is absolute heresy, but I also think the other extreme is a little bit uneven and a little bit slanted as well, because it's a big deal winning the national championship. And for those of you who've watched this channel for years now, you know that I have defended Day at almost every corner. I mean, even after he lost to Michigan, I said, I understand the desire to fire him because you can't lose to Michigan as much as he has. However, it doesn't make sense from an economic or logistics standpoint. It doesn't. And I think Bjork understood that. I think even if Ohio State lost to Tennessee at home, or if they lost to Oregon in the Rose Bowl, I think he would have been back for 2025. The picture would have been different. Yes, the outlook, the optimism, all those things would have been different, but he would have returned. What I want to do today is talk about Matt Patricia and talk about this hiring. But I kind of got away from what I wanted to tell you all, which was my initial reaction to this. But believe me, it needed a lot of background to it. I was cooking a potato beef recipe, something delicious, as basically meal prepping, if I gotta be honest. This meal's gonna last me for several days. It's absolutely delicious, and I'm cooking it, and I'm, multitasking while doing it. I'm on call with someone, and, well, I, click on a notification that I see, and lo and behold, it's someone telling me Ohio State actually did it. They hired Matt Patricia, and I'm thinking, no way. So I check, and yes, Matt Patricia is the new defensive coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And if I gotta be honest, I was kind of chuckling for a few minutes out of disbelief, but also because this is a very risky move by Ohio State. It is a move that I wouldn't have expected if you told me it was going to be made 2 days ago or 3 days ago. I may have told you that I thought you were messing with me, but it's a very boom or bust move, if I gotta be honest. And I think that there are reasons for optimism and reasons for concern. I think that hiring Matt Patricia to be Ohio State's defensive coordinator could maybe raise the ceiling of this team next year, maybe, but I think more likely than not, because of how good of a coordinator Knowles was, because of how elite his system is, I think he's the nation's best defensive coordinator. Now he's obviously with Penn State. I think that making a hire like this could actually lower the floor of Ohio State, a team who's already losing a bunch of starters, also losing both of their coordinators, replacing them, losing some others as well, although I think they upgraded from Justin Fry, if I gotta be honest, which I've said before. Anyway, I want to talk about this for those of you who are still here, and I hope that's all of you, but I understand if you prefer something else or have something to do. For those of you who are still here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment your reaction to this down below. Let me know if you like the hire, if you hate it, if you love it, or if you're kind of just, indifferent, shrugging your shoulders like I just did there. Let me know, please. Thank you. Now let's get to talking about this. So he was obviously the former defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, and he's now Ohio State's defensive coordinator. He won't have any other additional responsibilities. James Laurinaitis is the linebackers coach. Larry Johnson's the defensive line coach. Tim Walton received a promotion to co-defensive coordinator. He's the DB's coach, specifically looks at and works with the corners. Matt Guerrieri, he has been promoted to passing game coordinator, still the safeties coach. I like those moves in particular because I think they're going to be around with Ohio State for the long haul. Patricia being hired as the defensive coordinator feels like it's a short-term move. Much like Chip Kelly, but I think even more short-term. Chip Kelly could have been at Ohio State for longer than a year. And I think that was the expectation of a lot of people, was that he would be there for maybe, 2 or 3 years, more than one. But he got a $6 million yearly deal for the Raiders in the pro leagues, which is more his style and more his desire. So why would he turn that down? Well, I think on this end with Patricia has not been a college coach since 2003 when he was a graduate assistant. He has been with the Patriots for a long time, then was the head coach for the Lions, then was an assistant to the Eagles on a defense that was kind of a mess, tried to fix it, couldn't. He's a pro's pro. Collegiate, not collegiately, but in the coaching sense. He is not a collegiate coach. So I think he has his eyes set on making a rebound in his career professionally. So I would not expect him to be with Ohio State long term. Whether that means he does a very fantastic job, gets a good offer, leaves the Buckeyes, or maybe Ohio State says, try your hand in the NFL. We don't really like what you did here in 2025. But I like the Walton and Guerrieri promotions because it sounds like they'll be more involved with defensive play calling. This also means there might be some more scheme continuity than I initially expected when Patricia was named the defensive coordinator, but none of the promotions had been named yet. And I can at least say that I think those moves were great. Now, for Patricia as a whole, I have to lay the foundation and say that with the Patriots, he was awesome. He was running Belichick's 3-4-4-3 defense, had a lot of success in that system. They were 5th, 8th, 15th, 9th, 10th, 8th, 10th, 1st, and 5th in the NFL. His defenses were from 2009 to 2017 when he was the play caller. From 2012 to 17, he actually had the defensive coordinator title, then the de jure defensive coordinator, but he was the de facto DC with Belichick from 2009 all the way up to 2017. He had a lot of success in that system. He, after that, got hired as the Lions head coach, completely flopped there. The players hated him. He was an incompetent game manager. Like I said earlier in the video, from my neck of the woods, from Michigan, he's a meme. It's why you are seeing both Michigan and Michigan State fans and experts, analysts, or just random people giving their opinion say they hate this guy, or they don't like him, or they don't think he will work out with Ohio State. It's why you're seeing people who both are biased against Ohio State, but also objective, or some even who are pro Ohio State, biased towards them, kind of, take a second look at this, kind of backtrack to this, because they're worried about this. And also the fact that with the Eagles in 2023, yes, it was a bad situation, but he still didn't work any magic there. And the expectation with Ohio State is that you are going to work magic. That's why Ryan Day, well, had a win percentage of around 80% and people wanted him to be fired because he hadn't won a title yet. He had struggled to beat Michigan, struggled to win the Big Ten. He wasn't working any magic. He wasn't, putting pixie dust on the team every second. Obviously with the national championship, and I've said this even though I'm not an Ohio State fan, but from an objective standpoint, I don't think you can call for Day's job anytime soon unless they do the unthinkable and have like a 5-7 or 6-6 or 7-5 year next year, which I don't think will happen. It's Ohio State, and Day has built a beautiful operation. I think it's an operation that is better than Urban Meyer's operation when it comes to winning at the highest level, winning championships, maximizing your wins, and also raising your floor. I mean, there's a reason outside of the Michigan game, a rivalry game, and a team that had a lot of alien players on defense, that Day is undefeated otherwise against the lower level teams, against the unranked teams, because his operation when it comes to smaller teams is kind of too big to fail, if I'm being honest. So that's the base of this Matt Patricia hire. I will say that being a head coach and defensive coordinator are different. There's this thing called the Peter Principle, where people are promoted until they fail, and then they either stay there or get demoted back to where they were most recently successful, and that's just kind of it for them unless they have a breakthrough. I think that's kind of an example of that difference there. Patricia has had overall a great career as a defensive coordinator, would be elite if not for the fact that his last, full-time, full year-round DC job wasn't in 2017 in the NFL. And also you got to add on a little bit of what happened with the Eagles. But I'm not really counting what he did as a head coach against him, at least initially. If things start to come out, then I think it's fair to dig into that. But I want to look at who he was mainly as a defensive coordinator. So let's check that out and analyze this hire. Overall, I give it a B because I want to wait and see. I don't think that he is terrible as a defensive coordinator. Maybe he will end up being that way, but I am going to give some benefit of the doubt here, if I'm being honest, because it's Ryan Day. And I trust Ryan Day, and I think Ryan Day makes good decisions. I think Ryan Day knows that he can't manage the defense. All he can do with the defense is tell them if they're not playing to the Ohio State standard. That's it. He can't make adjustments. He's not a defensive mind. He's an offensive coach. Ryan Day is whether it's QB whisperer, excellent tactician on the offensive side of the ball, elite offensive coordinator, play caller. He's not a defensive guy. That's a known fact. But he hired Jim Knowles. He hired Jeff Hafley. Kerry Combs was a disaster, but he quickly pulled the plug on that really as soon as he could. Let's see what the Matt Patricia hire is. The positives of this hire, in my opinion, are that he experienced coaching some of the best defenses in the NFL. He has experience doing that. He has worked under the best NFL coach in history in Bill Belichick. And Ryan Day has done an elite job building his staff since 2022. In 2021, he did what he could when it was clear that Kerry Combs couldn't call the defense, and he tried to salvage the season. If not for Michigan on the road on the schedule, I thought the offense was good enough that maybe they still could have won it all. But that's something for a different time. That's a hypothetical. In 2020, they ran into Alabama. In 2019, it was his first year. That was potentially the best Ohio State team in school history with how dominant it was analytically. In 2022, he made all the right hires, just had to wait for things to gel. I think Justin Fry, I would consider that the only bad hire of that cycle. But a bad O-line coach or a mediocre O-line coach is much, much better than a bad, awful defensive coordinator hire in Kerry Combs. He's upgraded the O-line coach position for 2025 and beyond, and Jim Knowles paid off. There's a possibility that Patricia can pay off. So all those things are positives in my mind. The negatives here are that he has not been a defensive coordinator full-time since 2017. The game has changed. It's evolved. NFL coaching is different from college football coaching. I think we all know this. There are, as Patricia has even pointed out in some interviews, more similarities between college football and the NFL now than there were 10 years ago, but it's still a very different sport. Patricia was last a college football coach in 2003 with Syracuse as an offensive graduate assistant. So take from that what you will. He's obviously going to come in here to coach and to stay in his office and to scheme. He's not going to be recruiting, at least from my expectation. And his defense is also a scheme change from what Knowles ran. Now, is it a total scheme change? Is everything going to have to be destroyed and then built back up? No, probably not. That's why they promoted Guerrieri, Walton, and Patricia. You know, he likes to be aggressive, which is something that Knowles also likes to do with his defenses. Just from a very general, like extremely, inch deep, mile wide perspective, because I got to be honest here, I got to do more homework on his scheme and dive into that because I'm not really an NFL guy. But what I will say, based off of people I've talked to, articles I've read, that his defense relies on a stacked front. He loves big defensive linemen. He loves the pass rush, the defensive front. And ultimately, there are some changes. Running a 3-4 or a 4-3 is different from Jim Knowles wanting to run, his 3-3-5 or a 4-2-5. So there's some personnel differences that will be noticed on the field. And I also think that relying on a stacked front, there's a lot of boom or bust in that. Ohio State's recruited well. They've developed well there. That's the boom. The bust is they're only returning one starter there, and you don't know if the 2024 two deep is going to be as good as the 2024 starters when they've had another year and are now the starters in 2025. You just don't know. Like Sawyer at the end of the year was an animal. Tyleik Williams at times had alien qualities. Tui Mo'olau had a good year last year. And of course, Cody Simon. Cody Simon was insane. Cody Simon was the heart and soul of the defense. Elite tackler, did very well, whether as a QB spy or a pass rusher. It's just perfect, honestly. And it also doesn't help that a hard hitter like Lathan Ransom is gone, or that Jordan Hancock is gone. Caleb Downs is back, which I think will help Patricia and this defense out tremendously. But there's still a scheme change. With a lot of production lost from an elite defense last year, and the production that returns and the two deep that will now be starting, they were tailor-made for this system because Knowles was here for 3 years. He just was. And I also wonder if any of the dynamics that hampered Knowles at times at Ohio State, if they'll potentially, get in the way of what Patricia wants to do. I don't know. It's just something to mention right there. All I know is that Ryan Day runs a great operation. So if this doesn't work, he'll just pull the plug and he'll find someone better. And I think in 2026, because if Patricia succeeds or fails, I will name the prediction right now. I think he's gone after this year. That will be a way too early college football with Sam prediction. Patricia, whether it is a success, whether it is a failure, he will be here for 1 year, and he will use whatever he did for Ohio State this year to jettison a new career in the NFL. That's my prediction. Because even if Patricia doesn't do well, I still think the defense will be top 25, and there will still be flashes of it that are good enough to get him an NFL job. If the defense is elite, well, I think that further ensures that he's gone, because it'll be the Chip Kelly effect. Well, you did well at Ohio State. Ohio State is as close to an NFL team as you can get in college football compared to most other programs. Come on up and coach NFL-level talent. And Patricia has prior experience there and has done well. So I'm excited to see how this works. I mean, in my mind, I'm almost still stunned in disbelief. And look, it's interesting. It's fascinating. And it's a very, very controversial hire. That's for sure. There's no doubt this is controversial. I mean, you heard it from me. I laughed at this for a few minutes straight when I read it. And personally, I'm kind of on the pessimistic end with this hire rather than the optimistic end. There are others who think this is going to be a total, utter failure. Some who think it'll be a complete success. I'm still more in line with the middle ground. I want to wait and see. That's why I'm giving him a B grade. If I purely went with my instinct and my initial reaction, it might be lower than a B, but I want to give Day benefit of the doubt. Patricia has great players to work with, and his success or lack thereof as a head coach is different than his success or lack thereof as a defensive coordinator. There are great coordinators who've been terrible head coaches. Just ask Will Muschamp. Ask him. Electric defensive mind, not so much as a head coach. And Patricia is viewed that way in the NFL, from what I understand. So that's just the breakdown of it. He has great coaching experience, an elite resume with the Patriots. He's worked under some of the best, and Ryan Day knows what he's doing on the staff end, so we can give him benefit of the doubt in my mind. Some negatives are he hasn't been a defensive coordinator in quite some time. The game has changed. I know that whether it's Knowles' 3-3-5 or more generally the 4-2-5, a lot of more modern and the best defenses in the country do like to run more of those 4-2-5 or multiple out of that sets. Maybe I'm wrong there, but that's what I've learned and known, whether it's Jesse Minter at Michigan or Jim Knowles with Ohio State, and there are other examples that you can name as well. Like Penn State, Manny Diaz, for example, or Penn State last year under Tom Allen. Like the best defenses, Big Ten, but you also see this in the SEC where Alabama, they run a 4-2-5, multiple, or at least that's their base, that's the 4-2-5. Texas runs that as well. So I'm just curious to see if the scheme change and the type of scheme he wants to run, does it work? Or more importantly, because it'll probably have success, it's Ohio State, does it live up to Ohio State standards, especially in big games? I'm in a wait-and-see mode. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below, and thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Thanks to Crash2488, Brasco Rascal, and Conor OH for being Heisman members. Thanks to Chris Lane, Ismar, and Tyler Nye for being All-American members. And thanks to John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, and Joshua Jorgensen, and Will Loftus for being All-Conference members. Have a great day, everyone. Make sure to check out a merchandise store, Patreon page, and Discord server via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. Have a great day, everyone. I will see you all very soon.